Do that.
We're already panelists, so we don't have to accept it.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's correct, Kim. Thank you.
I've got time according to AT&T, so when it hits noon, I'll start.
All right, perfect, Joe. I will say, candidates, you'll hear me let you know when there's 5 seconds left in your comment period. I'll just chime in and say 5 seconds left. I'll even hold up 5 fingers for you.
Welcome, everyone. Candidates, you folks out there joining us live, and actually all of you who are watching a recorded version of this in the future. I'm Dr. Joe Blosser, a board member with Guilford Education Alliance and the High Point Schools Partnership. I'm a GCS parent and a professor at High Point University. I think we're very lucky to be living in Guilford County at this time. We have strong leadership, a good track record of success in our schools, and we're making deep investments in our school facilities. We have work to do, though. Students need us as adults to help them prepare for the future. And perhaps even more importantly, we as adults really need the students of today to be prepared for the future that we're all going to inhabit. Guilford County Schools is one of the 50 largest school districts in the country. It's the second largest employer in our county with nearly a $1 billion annual budget. I think it's critical for us to keep the scale of the district in mind. We have an incredibly diverse community, and our students and educators reflect that diversity. We have challenges as a community in terms of poverty and slower economic growth than some other large North Carolina communities. And the data is clear that academic outcomes are tied to these kind of community statistics. So serving on the Board of Education really matters. It's serious business, and I'm thankful to everyone who's stepping up to make a difference. We look forward to hearing your perspectives on one of our community's most valuable assets. So I'm happy to be moderating today, and I want to hand it over to Jaden, who's going to be moderating with me as well to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to join the Guilford Education Alliance in the moderating of this event. I am Jaden Becoats, a senior at Page High School, where I am involved in many different clubs and activities, such as Principals Council, Key Club, National Honor Society, and I currently serve as Senior Class Vice President. I am also President, co-founder of Ladies of Unmatched Excellence, which is a club that focuses on building up women of all backgrounds. I have over 250 service learning hours and a course load that includes AP and IB classes. After Page High School, I plan to attend North Carolina State University or UNC Charlotte with a major in mathematics and minor in math education. To help prepare for my future teaching career, I am currently involved in a teacher cadet program that allows me the opportunity to work alongside current GCS elementary and high school teachers. Your responses to these questions this afternoon will help me determine whether I would like to become a future GCS employee. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. We're going to move to opening statements. Candidates, please introduce yourself in 30 seconds and tell us why you are running for Board of Education. Let's start with District 2, Amanda Cook.
Thank you so much to our moderators and our hosts today. I'm very proud to be a former GCS employee myself. So Jaden, I will tell you that becoming a GCS employee and teacher can be a very rewarding career. I'm running because I want to support the people who work in our schools, the parents who send their children to us every day. I'm also a GCS mom of a current 8th grader. And I want to see GCS be the leader so that when Jaden goes off and explores education in another community, she wants to come right back here to Greensboro and work and serve with us.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Next, Chrissy Pratt.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm Chrissy Pratt, and I am running for the Board of Education because I believe that my solid background in education as well as leadership makes me an ideal candidate for the Board of Ed. I'm a national board certified teacher. I taught 5th, 6th, and 7th grades. I've been working in online education since 2010 in leadership roles. I am a GCS mom, and I've watched everything going on in the school system, and I want to raise the academic bar and bring GCS to a place of excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, District 4, Linda Welburn.
Good evening, and thank you for all of you being here, and thank you for putting on this forum for our constituents. I am Linda Welburn. I've been on the board going on for 10 years. I have worked hard on 2 particular committees, which is policy and legislative over the years. I am, I'm here because I believe in educating all children to the highest academic possibility. And I am known to be a relationship builder. I support the parents, I support the teachers, I support the community. And I want to continue that work. And we
Time is
have
up, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dion Clark.
Thank you. I'm Dion Clark, running for Board of Education District 4. I'm simply here because I want to work for all children. I want to make sure that we have high quality education. I want to talk about teacher retention and recruiting. I just want to talk about safety, mental health issues. I've been in the scenes, behind the scenes, as a community advocate, as a pastor in the community, faith community, working for Guilford County Schools. And now I want to be able to make a difference by being on the Board of Education to make sure we make a difference and work for all children.
Thank you. Now, District 6, Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Andrew. I'm running for the Guilford County School Board District 6. I'm a GCS dad. I'm a proud parent of High Point University Junior. I'm also a product of excellent public education, and I've seen what that public education has done for me as a first-generation American, achieving the quote American dream by education. I believe that my skills, temperance as a project manager, can be valuable to the board to bring this kind of board oversight responsibilities to Guilford County Schools.
Thank you. Kim Irby.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am the school board member for District 6, so I want to continue doing great work because we have some of the best high schools already in North Carolina. We are working on our $1.7 billion school bond, which we've already groundbroken 6 schools already. So it's about continuing the work of greatness in Guilford County, and that's why I want to continue serving. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, District 8, Dina Hayes.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dina Hayes Green. I have been encouraged to run for my 5th term on the Guilford County Board of Education. I've chaired the Achievement Gap Committee, School Safety and Gang Education, and Historically Underutilized Business Committee. I've seen what works and what hasn't, and I think that this experience is an asset to the district.
Thank you. And finally, at large, Dimitri Carter.
Good afternoon. My name is Dimitri Carter. I live in High Point. I've been here for the last 3 years. I retired from the federal government and with companies working for the federal government. after about 40 years. I have an undergraduate degree in business administration from George Mason University, and I have a law degree from Duke University School of Law. I practiced law for about 20 years. My fields of endeavor were administrative law and contracts. I know how
5
government is
seconds.
supposed to work. Thank you very much. All of our children can learn. Why are so many failing?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Alan Sheraus.
Thank you, Jaden. I'm Alan Shuraus, running at large. I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm a pastor in this community, a community leader and organizer who's worked for the common good in a variety of ways over the 9 years I've been here. I'm the son of a public school teacher, and I am the spouse of a 2-term PTA president. Those were COVID years, by the way, and I am a parent of 4 GCS students. And in every intersecting identity of my life, I believe our public schools are the place we can accomplish the most collective good and the justice that we want for all of our kids.
All right, thank you all. As you can tell, we're going to keep our time tight, and we're going to keep moving on. So I want to jump into the questions and start with the strengths of our district. Jaden mentioned in her introductions some of the positive things that she's involved in Page High School, from advanced courses and clubs to leadership activities. These are good things. I, for one, think we've had excellent superintendent leadership from Mo Green to Dr. Contreras and now to Dr. Oakley. But let's start with District 2. Chrissy Pratt, in your opinion, what are the current strengths of our school system? And how would you build upon these strengths to help Guilford County schools become even more effective?
You have 90 seconds for each of these questions.
Thank you so much. I think the biggest strength of GCS is the people that we have involved here. Everyone from the students to the parents, to the teachers, to the administration, to all of the board members, all of the downtown staff. We really have just incredible people here. And I think we need to continue investing in the people of the Guilford County school system. We need to be providing incentives to our teachers, in particular, the teachers who have worked really hard for our students during these hard COVID years. We want to incentivize them to stay here in Guilford County and keep promoting excellence. We need to work with our parents as well. We have some amazing parents who really care about their kids and are passionate, and they want transparency into what's happening in the classroom, and they want to be involved in their students' schools. And we need to continue things like the GCS Parent Academy and other community partnerships that allow the parents that involvement in their schools. And we also need to work to empower our administration and our teachers to really focus within their own schools on what's best for their students. Is my time up? Is that what you said?
Now you've got 15 seconds.
Oh, okay. And just want to be sure that our teachers are able to spend their time focusing on teaching, being supported by administration when it comes to discipline issues, and ensure that the administration is also supported by the downtown staff. Thank you so much.
And Amanda Cook.
Thank you. Well, I have to agree that I think the people of our community and our school system are the power that we have. I think that it's a resource that we could tap into more. We have creative leadership from every building and every community. I love to see the community support and advocates that we have on this call and tuning in. I think that remembering the rich history of this area and remembering where we've come from is one of our greatest strengths, that we can constantly be looking back so that we can plan forward. And as somebody who works in creativity and innovation every day, I want to keep pushing that forward and keep raising the voices that haven't been heard yet so that we can continue to improve. I think it's really important that Jaden is one of our moderators today, because our students have so much potential to change our community for the best. And I want to continue to see clubs like Teacher Cadets and to see programs like this where students get to have a voice being lifted and celebrated in new ways and innovative ways. And I just really feel the power of even having this forum here today shows that Greensboro and Greater Guilford County care about what's going on in public education, and we can build on that strength.
Great, thank you. Dion Clark.
Thank you. Again, I agree with what everyone else has said about the strength of our teachers, our administrative constituents and all of those. But we also have 4 GCS high schools that are top 10 in the state. GCS has 5 signature academies. We have one of the highest graduations rates in GC Guilford County history. And we also need to focus that we've done a great thing with our CTE pathway programs. And those are just current strengths that we really have, and I think that we're working to make sure that our teachers get compensated even more, not just from a county and district level, but even to the state level. And so I'm excited about our magnet programs. I'm excited about everything. Those are strengths that we have. Although we've had many successes, we still have so much opportunity for growth. And I think the campaign and advocacy that led to the recent bond referendum is something that we did well. But we as a community and system acknowledge that we need funds to improve our school facilities. And it showed us that community alignment is important, which is very pivotal for GC success. And I'd like to continue that energy and momentum in other schools' needs, such as teacher recruitment, school safety, and mental health support. And these are things that have been addressed. But if elected, I plan to advocate and champion those issues for success and implementation.
And Linda Welburn.
Hi, I want to focus on career technical. Guilford has a strong career technical programs. The Guilford Apprenticeship Partnership has been amazingly successful. College is not for every student, and the cost of college has reached an unaffordable level. So career technical offers an opportunity to learn high demand trades that pay well and will with no out-of-pocket cost or minimal cost. GCS needs to continue building business partnerships to enhance the learning process, as well as build relationships and mentors for our students. I would like to see our young students exposed to a multitude of careers to learn at some level the depth of what people in different careers actually do and the level of education required for the different professions. Building interest in different careers, making the connection that strong reading and math skills are essential for every career. We'll reemphasize the importance of education. I mean, we need to get our children to understand at a very young age that being able to read and do math and motivate them hopefully on their own to achieve those goals. If they have dreams that to aspire to a particular career, whether it be an astronaut, a doctor. I even have one little boy tell me a president. They need to know what it takes to achieve those challenges and those dreams. So that's what I would like.
And Kim Irby.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, 90 seconds to talk about our strengths.
Yeah, great. We have so many strengths in Guilford County. We have our community partnerships. We have to strengthen our employees, every department between maintenance, bus drivers, our teachers, our office workers. We have students that, just like this young lady is able to take the lead and be a part of this forum. We have so many students that are just leaders in Guilford County. We are a national model for coming out of COVID, post-COVID strategies. I just want to keep building on those things, building on the community partnerships that we have, building with our parents, strengthening them and helping them to become better advocates for their children. We do have affordable college here in Guilford County that we have programs where our children can take those college classes, whether it's at GTCC or we have early college, opportunities to schools offer early college opportunities. So we just have so many strengths. So that's why it's important, that we continue to build on those strengths, highlight those strengths, celebrate those strengths that we have in Guilford County. Thank you.
And Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon. I would also like to emphasize the strengths of our CTE program. As mentioned before, career technical education is vital because not every student wants to go to college immediately or can afford to go to college immediately, but we have the type of CTE jobs right here in the triad today that can use high school students who are prepared to take on the workforce. I personally have, as an employer, we're looking for students who do well on the math keys exams and can employ them immediately after high school. We've reached out to our local High Point high schools to let their students know that these types of jobs are available today for students who do not wish to go to college. And the pipeline of the CTE program that Guilford County Schools has allows us to have those young men and young women with the potential to take on the workforce immediately, and we can build more upon that. But again, the CTE is very important because we are expanding, my company, other companies, and we're going to need those students who are well-trained to be able to take on these jobs and expand the economic output of the triad area.
Thank you. So we'll go to Dina Hayes next.
Thank you. I have had the opportunity to serve with 4 different superintendents, and each leader has brought something incredibly valuable to the district and maintained what we were doing well. Our finance department has won national recognition for maintaining professional standards and accounting for 26 years. We have early and middle colleges for students who couldn't thrive in traditional schools. Every superintendent has focused on school construction and facilities bond. It's been a priority. Our career and technical education investment for career path alternatives. People come from across the state seeking access to our exceptional children's services. And although the pandemic has had a devastating impact on learning, the allocation of resources and instructional support decisions under the leadership of Dr. Contreras and her team, which included Dr. Oakley, has resulted in Guilford County Schools having had the least learning loss in the state. I believe that we have to continue to advocate for compensation and benefits that says loud and clear we value our workforce and the lifelong impact they have on our students, to invest in professional development across the district, our transportation staff, our school nutrition staff. They have experiences that can help us address or resolve issues regarding the supply chain and how it impacts their job. I also believe that job satisfaction is very important to our employees, and it impacts things like attendance, performance, and willingness to go beyond what is required of them. I'm sorry, I thought I heard something.
No, you're great. Thank you. And we'll move to our at-large candidates, and we'll start with Alan Shuraus.
Well, thank you. I love the question because too often we start with deficiencies, and that's far too easy. There are so many strengths that exist in our Guilford County schools. Here are 5. One of them is our educators, whom we should treat with trust and support and fairness, who should be offered opportunities for meaningful advancement, who should be invited to the tables where decisions are made, and who should be supported with full funding befitting their work. Second is the parents and the trusted adults and caregivers in the lives of our students, who already are able to partner in so many meaningful ways with our Guilford County educators, and who know the value of that, as we all do in Guilford County. A third is the opportunity we have to improve facilities. We have this one-of-a-kind opportunity with the new bond. I was part of the advocacy ambassador committee for the SMART bond. Not everyone in leadership supported the bond. Not everyone on this call supported the bond, but our community did. And that is a mandate to us. It tells us what we value, and we can work into the possibility of that. A fourth strength that I would raise is the alignment that exists among leadership in our county, particularly our county commissioners and our Board of Education. So many have worked so hard for that. And that is bound together by a fifth strength, and that is a common commitment to equity and the common good, and the activists and advocates that have led us towards justice and have charted that course that we can follow in our Board of Ed.
And finally, Dimitri Carter. Dimitri, you're still muted. If you'd unmute yourself, we'll start your clock over.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I am sorry about that. Every organization in which people gather or work or are part of has weaknesses as well as strengths. You want to make sure that the strengths outweigh the weaknesses. Otherwise, the organization is not moving forward. I have to second what several of the other candidates have said about the CTE program. I think it is a good program and it has lots of merit. But that only fits one part of the mission of schools. That is to prepare students for careers. What about those students who want to go on to higher ed? I'm not sure that I should be more definitive about that. I am sure that our school system is not preparing those students. I've looked at the grades and I've looked at science classes. And one of the things that I've noticed is that for those students who take science and take the science tests at the end, I believe the 5th grade and the 8th grade, they're doing much better in reading and math. And I think there's something in those programs that need to be emulated. I'd like to find out what's going on. Why are Black and brown students having such difficulty?
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you all. I'm going to switch gears here with our next question. You know, we hear a lot about mental health and the stress that students and teachers are under. I, for example, take 7 classes a day, 5 days a week. My friends and I are in clubs, play sports, have jobs, and help take care of family. Teachers face these same demands. We don't have much free time at school to talk with adults and build the relationships we need to talk about things that matter that can help us deal with this stress. The North Carolina General Assembly gives charter and private schools flexibility to craft school calendars and daily schedules while not providing this flexibility to public school systems. With this flexibility, charters and private schools can build in more time for students and educators to build relationships, for tutoring during school hours, and for special programs. How, as a board member, would you advocate to the state to give school leaders and principals this kind of flexibility with calendars and schedules? How do you think this flexibility would be valuable? Amanda Cook, let's start with you.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that is absolutely true. And I think that time is one of the most valuable resources that we can provide to all employees and to all students, to be able to find time in their day where they get to be themselves, express themselves, and build those valuable relationships. Most people I meet say that the reason they are who they are is because of one teacher, one relationship that they were able to build. So I absolutely would want to advocate up and out so that we elect public officials who understand the need for this type of time in the day, and that when the conversations are happening in Raleigh, that they're hearing the voices of people like Jaden and her classmates and all of the employees that are experiencing the undue stress of the requirements that are put onto our students and our teachers. As a teacher in the arts for 13 years, I got to build those relationships. I was very lucky that I had students for multiple years. So I know the value of having open and creative conversations, of allowing students to express themselves. And I want to make sure that our community understands that things like the calendar, where you might hear something like year-round school, they have been scientifically proven to be valuable, not just for retaining the learning that happens throughout the year, but also for having that continuation of relationship from day to day and year to year.
Thank you. Next, Chrissy Pratt.
Thank you. So I think we need to come at this question from a couple of different angles. One of them, I think, is to work with the community, the school system, the parents, to really survey what the needs and wants of the community are, and not just, a short little survey of only a few people, but really getting the voices of as many people in the county as possible, so that we are able to go to the state legislature and lobby appropriately and say, this is what our county wants. So I wanted to address that side of it first, with talking with the legislature and establishing relationships with those in Raleigh so that we can have those open conversations. Then on the local level, I think we really need to test our own creativity and think outside of the box and look at what kinds of things can we do here within the parameters that are set for us by the state to give us some more flexibility. We spend an inordinate amount of time doing standardized testing that's taking away from time in the classrooms where these relationships could be built and where we could be really having valuable instructional time. So if we could reduce the amount of testing that needs to happen during the day, I think that would be ideal. Looking at extending our school day if possible to allow some of that, looking at additional transportation issues. Can we do things to help some students with being able to stay after school who might not be able to otherwise? So thank you very much. Time's up.
Thank you. Now, Linda Welburn.
Linda, are you with us? So you might be muted. We'll start your time when we can hear you, but we can't hear you. Jade, oh, there she is. Linda, we still can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Unmute.
There you go. I'll start your time now.
Sorry. I've been on the legislative committee for years, and we have put up flexibility on the calendar for years, and the resort community doesn't really lobby against that. I would like to see some changes. One of the major issues is for the block schedule, who has to do their testing in January, which means they come back from spring break and have to go directly into test prep. So if we could simply start, a week earlier, they may be able to get their testing in before going on Christmas break, which would really help, and I believe, in their grades and everything. The other thing is, adjusting the hours would maybe allow us to do some interventions eventually. So there are reasons to change the calendar. It's a very difficult thing to do. We've been after that for years. There are some things that GCS can do about their calendar, because this is a thing that I keep talking about. We need to increase our instructional days back to 180. We do need to look at the testing days that we're doing. Right now we have 10. We have the pre-ACT, the ACT, the SAT, 3 days of math, and 3 days of interim assessments. That's 10 days. So that's all taken away from instructional hours. And I don't know how we improve academics if we don't have more instructional hours to give teachers the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Dion Clark.
Thanks, Jaden. So my kids attend Allen J. Prep in High Point. I serve as PTA president there. And Dr. Wheat does an incredible job of being creative and developing great implementation to make sure that he builds relationships. I think the answer to your question is we have to be creative and build relationships with the students according to the demographics that we have, that they serve. I think that we have a problem with some of our staff being relational to those who they have to teach, those who they have to raise in the classrooms. And I think that we need to focus on developing relationships as far as scheduling, as far as testing, giving them the ability to be creative within their own rights, but also within the limits and the confinements that, legislation would allow us to do. But the problem is we're not focusing on relationships with the students, where the students trust the teachers and the staff and administration to be creative and be who they are. I think we spend too much time focusing on what's not necessary versus on developing the students. So I think that for people like you, Jaden, and people like my kids, if they're in school and they feel like they have relationships and that teachers are creative and they have a moment during the day or a moment during the week or a moment during the months where they can actually be who they are and just let their hair down and it not be so structured, I think everybody wins. And that's what I think that we should do.
Thank you. Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon again. We obviously have specific constraints from the state that require certain things, and that is a legislative fight which we have started. We must continue to really get the flexibility we need, because I believe that we need to bring some of that responsibility down to the local level and empower specifically our principals to come up with the flexibility they need to take care of their students. We also have to maintain our instructional hours. Basically, we need to focus on what we can do while we're fighting what we are constrained from doing in the short term. When my son was in school, some of the seniors had open blocks, which I think would help a lot of students where they have some open time during the day where they can have some study time or time to meet with their guidance counselors to do everything that we talked about before, sort of be able to vent, be able to express their concerns, to know that someone really cares about them as an individual instead of a block of students or an aggregate herd, because it's really the individuals that we're looking for to empower, to encourage, to make sure that they're getting what they need. So that's one thing that I'd like to see. It's about building vision for these students to provide and give them the power to take charge of their blocks, their time, and help them move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Now, Kim Irby.
Kim, you might be muted. We
I
can't
just want
hear
to let
you.
you know, at first, you all started by unmuting us. And that's why probably we're waiting for you to unmute us. And then you stopped unmuting us, just to let you know.
I'll have Holly check on that, but I'm going to start
Mhm.
your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know, when I think about the calendars, because I'm from New York City, and that was never a barrier. You know, New York City Public Schools was able to create, you know, their own calendar. But also one of the barriers to doing that, we know that transportation, right? Students being able to get where they need to go. We got transportation that is, you know, a struggle. And we also have childcare needs. So at every level of flexibility, we have to look at what are the needs of elementary school children, because they are pre-K through 5 and they're a lot younger. So they have different needs in regard to their calendar and their learning expectations. Then we have middle school. So I think for each level of education, it's not just a broad stroke of changing the calendar. We're going to have to look at the different levels between elementary, middle, and high school students, and then look at what are the barriers of that actually prevent us from having more flexible time slots for children to build those relationships with their teachers, and build relationships actually with one another as well. So I think that we're always fighting, unfortunately, about the calendar, but we also have some models where we have schools that are have that flexibility. So I think that's part of our advocacy, to show to the legislators that we already are doing it and it's working.
Thank you. Now, Dina Hayes.
Thank you. I think part of the answer is in the question itself. It's just like, how do you think this flexibility would be valuable? Well, as you say here, that it builds in more time for students and educators to build relationships, tutoring during school hours, and for special programs. I believe that every single district should have that kind of flexibility so that we can meet the needs of our students. You've got semester imbalance, so that high school students are impacted so much by this, having to take exams oftentimes after the winter break. We have students that are dually enrolled at our traditional high schools. And so this is not in sync with the courses that they're taking off campus. I mean, it's been unpopular since it passed nearly 20 years ago. And I think travel and tourism is important, but it shouldn't be dictating the schedule for students and teachers and all of the things that our district is responsible for. I will continue to work with our district and our board, our legislative committee, as Representative Welburn said, this has been on the legislative agenda. The Guilford delegation has been very receptive to hearing our concerns. And as a community organizer, I think it's really important to keep the community informed and activated around this issue.
Thank you. And finally, our at-large candidates, Dimitri Carter.
Holly, can you make sure you're unmuting folks if they don't unmute themselves?
For some reason, it goes back to mute. I don't understand. As a former attorney, one of the things that I always wanted to do or pride myself in doing was to make sure I understood not only the context, the question, but also the facts surrounding it. Because you cannot formulate an approach, an opinion, a solution until you know whether or not the question dealing with flexibilities, whether or not that is really an issue going on at the local level. What I've just heard is, it seems to me, or at least what I've heard, is that the local school district has the ability to make some changes, to build in some free time for the relationships. So if that is the case, then is legislation necessary? I don't understand that at all. Secondly, which goes along with my first answer, is what is preventing a local district, a local school from building in those flexibilities? So I'm not exactly sure how I would approach this, but I need to know more information. I need to know more facts. Where is this happening? Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Alan Sheraus.
Thank you, Jaden. Well, I think we should pay attention anytime a charter school or private school is afforded an educational resource that is not extended also to our public schools. And in this case, that resource is the flexibility and the trust that enables that flexibility. On the flip side, public schools are held to a standard of accountability, and at its best, that accountability ensures equity and fairness and inclusion. And I certainly think that external standard and constraint must remain. But within that common commitment that we share to those things, there can certainly be flexibility and trust as a valuable opportunity that we can extend to our educators to show them that we believe that they are in the best position to continue doing what they've done, to make vital decisions every day, decisions that shape culture, that influence students, and we can trust that they will do that with the good of the student in mind, that no one is in a better position to make such decisions and shape the culture that comes from that. And I think we have to tell success stories. My 7th grader is at Swan Middle, which is a restart school where Principal Battle is doing amazing things with the flexibility afforded to him. My church works with Washington Montessori, where Principal Travers, recently recognized as Principal of the Year, is doing creative things as well. And we tell those stories to ensure that that kind of flexibility can be extended along with trust to all.
All right, so thank you for those answers. We're going to move into a different territory now. When I was getting to know Jaden a bit while preparing for this forum, she talked about how she notices participation gaps in courses at Page, even as the school has gotten increasingly diverse. She notices especially in IB courses and in student leadership groups. While this persistent segregation and separation in schools, neighborhoods, and faith communities is a national dynamic, we also have to address it. Guilford County Schools has focused in this area for years and made some significant progress, but gaps remain. What are your thoughts about the persistent racial and socioeconomic gaps in student learning outcomes in Guilford County Schools? What should GCS and the community do to close those gaps? We're going to start with Chrissy Pratt.
Thank you so much. And yes, we absolutely have gaps, and we've done a lot of work in this area, and those gaps continue to persist, and our schools are still not performing academically where I believe they absolutely can. We have over half of our schools right now being designated by the state as low performing schools, and we know that we absolutely can do better and that our students can do better. I think some of the things that we need to do are focus on changing the culture in our schools in general. We need to, it sounds sort of silly, but we need to make academics cool again and exciting and fun for kids and really provide that recognition for significant academic performance. We need to ensure that all of our students, no matter what their background, are being provided all of the same opportunities, that we're educating them about the variety of programs that we have within our school system and encouraging people to apply for programs, take classes that are of high interest to them, and really be sure that we're providing as much as we can to our students to provide them all those opportunities. We need to really think also about the mental health of our kids and how some of the environments in our schools are contributing to the negative mental health, which of course has been such a challenge in particular over the past 2 years. But if we do a flip within our schools and really focus on the positivity and the optimism and the success that our students can have and raise that bar, I think we'll see performance increase across the board from all of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Amanda Cook.
Thank you. I think just saying it out loud is one of the first steps, and continuing to say that it is happening, recognizing the experience of the people in our community who are seeing the inequity on a daily basis and saying, yes, your experience is real, can be very powerful just for being inclusive as a county. The second thing is we really do have to look at what equity means. And when we have schools that are not Title I, who are demanding to have access to things that are helping to bring our Title I schools up to the same performance levels, we really need to be honest about what that means. We have to understand that when one school is begging for money to have their football field maintained and another school is begging for money to fix cracks in the walls, you know, those are two different experiences. So we do have to recognize that not all needs are on the same level, and we have to address the most immediate needs first. School nutrition is number one on my hit list right now as far as what we need to talk about, because I am in schools multiple times a week, and the level of nutrition that is available to our students is not always adequate. Providing sugary breakfast foods, providing poor smelling, poor tasting lunch foods is not adding to our academic success, and we need to address it.
Great, thank you. And we'll move to Dion Clark.
I agree with some things that Amanda said, but we also have to understand that the achievement gap is existed for decades, and so it's a systematic issue. It's not just a one-off, so we have to address the systems. We have to make a holistic approach to address the entire system. This is not new, it's been going on. It's just that others who it don't affect, they ignore it because they don't have to deal with it. So by it being ignored, it hasn't been addressed because it's not affecting those in the audiences that doesn't need it. So I think that public schools, GCS, those of us who are community leaders and on the Board of Education, we have to look at this and try to improve this gap because it's a very, very heavy issue. And for those people who think that the racial and socioeconomic gap does not exist and does not affect student outcomes, it weighs heavily. Sometimes in certain demographics, the only meal that student eats is at school. The only meal they get is at school. So when Amanda's talking about school nutrition, sometimes that's the only meal they eat. Sometimes they don't have a way to get there. Sometimes their parents don't even care. And like she said, while we're waiting on others to turf a football field where others just simply need heat and air conditioning in the school fixed, you know, we have to really focus on what matters to get the outcome collectively and systematically, not just individuals.
And Linda Welburn.
Well, we know that education is an equalizer. And if we can get all children to a level of education where they can read and do math and everything, they can move on up that ladder to where they will have an opportunity to do amazing things. If we leave them where they're not reading and doing math appropriately, we're going to lose them in 5th grade. I think part of it is that we need to, like I said, with the CTE, sometimes when you're a hardworking parent, a single parent, you don't have time to stay on top of your child about education. If you can get that child in, and children at young ages can decide that they are going to succeed. They're very smart. I decided in 2nd grade, after being held back, that wasn't happening to me again. Came from a divorced mother. I was, Dawn, we're not even going to go, but I was raised poor. So children at a young age, it's not that they don't have good parents. They have parents that are trying to put food on the table. They have parents that are trying to make a living. But young kids can decide, and they can move forward if we encourage them with big dreams and explain to them you have to work hard to achieve those. You know, kids have to do the work to be proficient. They have to read, and maybe we need to send books home with them so they can read, because sometimes the parents are just do not have the availability to provide that. Extra tutoring after school, any of the support systems we can provide, you know, nutrition,
Time's up.
Great. And Kim,
And if I say time's up, feel free to finish your sentence, folks. I don't.
Yeah, thank you for allowing us to examine the real reason why we're here. We have data that has told us for years that there has been an opportunity gap for students. I don't call it an achievement gap. We use that data so that way we can actually drill down on what we need to do equitably. It tells us something about the student. It tells us something about sometimes about the family dynamic. That's why we need those social workers. That's why we need the mental health professionals. Some of our schools are doing coat drives. Some of our schools are doing food drives. Some of our, you know, our schools and the children have all these different needs. And what we know as a school system is that we cannot do it alone. We're going to continue to build on those partnerships in the community. And again, tell the story of where the needs are for our children. And you know, you can be a high performing student and still struggle. Okay. It's not because I was a high performing student and my mom had a stroke while I was in high school and I became a caregiver. So it's not about just learning how to read and write and be proficient in those things. We address children as whole students in Guilford County.
Great. And Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon again. Yes, these gaps do exist, and we do need to take the time to examine them and see what we can do about them. Ultimately, to lessen these gaps, it's about development of human capital. It's providing connections for these children and vision. For example, my company, prior to COVID, we intend to do it again, reached out to the African American Male Initiative, where we have young men come to our office and see what engineers do. Basic DC circuits, we have them build things, we actually see what education gets to. So build vision for these young men, saying that this is something that I can achieve if I do this, that, and the other. And it was a great opportunity to build that relationship and say that, you know, you don't have to look like a particular person to get to this point. If I can do it, you can do it. And these are things that I would like to continue to do. We need to examine factors that contribute that certain racial and ethnic minorities who successfully achieve in these selective academic programs, what are they doing to encourage that? Again, we can provide what these young men, young women need to achieve and take the time to listen to their concerns and show them the pathway moving forward.
Excellent. And we'll move now to Dina Hayes, who's worked on this for a long time. So give us 90 seconds on it, Dina.
Okay, I'm going to talk fast. You know, as Pastor Clark said, this is systemic. It's existed for decades. It was here 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And it's systemic because the county is dealing with racial and ethnic disparities in maternal and child health and diabetes. Social services is dealing with racial disparities in the child welfare system. The city is dealing with racial and ethnic disparities in regards to housing and environmental exposure. The achievement gap is a constellation of so many factors. These gaps exist among high-performing students, high-income students. It doesn't just affect low-income students and low-performing students. That's just how deep and resilient it is. And it can't be and shouldn't be addressed with simple interventions and solutions. There's not a one-dimensional or single answer to that problem, and we have to stop dumbing it down. Education is great. It is life-altering, but it is not the great equalizer because, as we've said repeatedly, racial inequities exist among highly educated professionals and high-income earners. So what should we do? The district is gathering and analyzing data in ways that gives us more information than we've ever had before. The data allows us to allocate resources more effectively, and we have to bring other municipalities to the table to see where resources overlap. We have to be persistent about disaggregating data and sharing this approach with our community partners to cooperate and collaborate. And we have to keep learning and implementing strategies that can and will undermine the ability of the gap to resurface the way that it does over and over again.
With a minute to spare. Or a few seconds to spare anyway. All right, so we'll turn to our large candidates. Alan Sheraus.
Well, in addition to wanting to join Dina and everything she just described, let me say that this inequity is my greatest concern and motive in running for this office. I'm an advocate for racial justice, and I believe that justice means everyone should have what they're owed and that every child is owed opportunity. And so we have to work for that at the individual level to ensure that all children have equal access, not only to classrooms and teachers, but also to social capital, to necessary supportive services. We have to prioritize intervention programs and the staff necessary for adequate support professionals. We have to make sure our structural decisions are always made with a priority for those who are most vulnerable. We have to do things like advocate for poverty reducing federal education programs, like free and reduced lunch. We have to reduce high stakes testing. We have to institute culturally responsive and sensitive teaching. We have to practice restorative justice in our discipline. We have to invest in high quality schooling, need to fund the Leandro Plan, which is an unfulfilled promise to North Carolina's students and to Guilford County students. And we need to say again and again that our schools are not underperforming. They are underfunded. But in addition to all of this individual work, we also need to remember the system, that this gap that exists in education exists in healthcare and economics and so many other fields. And we have to name racism. We have to name that it exists, that it doesn't look like segregated lunch counters, but it still exists. And we have to name the injustice to work against it.
And finally, Dimitri Carter.
I want to start out by saying a couple of things. One, racism on the scale that a couple of the other candidates have described does not exist in this country. I was born in a segregated segregated society. I know what racism is up close and personal. I don't see it in my daily life. Schools should not be replacing parents and trying to be everything to every kid. I believe that all kids can learn. The fact that they have been persistently, some of them, the Black and brown students have persistently been underperforming for, I think Ms. Hayes said 20, 30 years, and there's no correction. I don't understand that at all. I have two solutions. One is to start and take a look at what's going on in pre-K. Maybe they're not ready for school, and we need to make them ready for kindergarten at least. Have them learn their numbers, have them learn their ABCs. Secondly, in middle school and high school, let's talk about changing the way we teach our kids. Let's use the Socratic method so that we can get them thinking more deeply about what it is that they've read, what it is that they understand, and why they understand what they understand. We've had the food and nutrition program, the free meals, the reduced meals since 1946.
Time is up.
Being economically depressed is an excuse and nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. And I apologize, I mispronounced your last name, Dimitri Carter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As you know, I'm a student at Page, and if you haven't visited Page, you definitely should. It is a great high school with great teachers, but it is in terrible condition. We have classroom portables that were set up on our campus in 1973. Little metal plates with the dates that are actually nailed beside the doors. We have a leaky roof, and our air and heat can be very inconsistent. And when things are working, Page is still just a series of little boxes that serve as classrooms. There isn't a creative collaboration space. I know Page won't be rebuilt while I'm a student, but my dream is to teach. So, what is your vision for how we can build the kind of schools that help students reach their full potential and inspire me as a future teacher to want to teach in? Amanda Cook, let's start with you.
Well, I feel like you set me up perfectly because I'm actually visiting Paige this week to sub in the health and PE department. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. This is one of my biggest dreams, is that not only we build the schools that we need and meet all of the deficits that have been sitting in our county for decades, but that we train our teachers to teach in a way that really works in these buildings, to utilize every space and every opportunity that we're being provided with through this amazing school bond. I think that investing in sending our public teachers out into the world to study and to learn with their colleagues within the state, within the country, and internationally is one way that we can bring that focus on forward teaching, design thinking into our rooms. Being able to empower our students to run and engage in our classroom environments in a way that doesn't focus on discipline, but focuses on actual education and the coming together of minds so that we can get to know each other and build those relationships like we talked about before. I want to see people coming to tour our school buildings and learn from us and looking to us as leaders in education and creativity and innovation. And I want to see people banging down the doors to come teach in Guilford County schools, parents volunteering, and the community supporting all of our new initiatives.
Thank you. Now, Chrissy Pratt.
Thank you so much. And you are absolutely right about the condition of our schools. There are many schools within the county that are in a state of disrepair that is just completely unacceptable. We've deferred maintenance. We have not invested in our buildings and in our students and in our teachers and in the future of our county. And we absolutely need to change that. The vision for schools, that's such a long answer. We need the schools to be able, first and foremost, to meet students' basic needs. It's not okay for kids to go to a school with no heat and no air conditioning. So obviously that has to be first and foremost. But then working to ensure that the schools that we're building and that the schools that we're renovating have spaces that are going to support the teachers, support the students, provide collaborative learning spaces, also provide private learning spaces where, every student learns differently. Some of them want to work with other students. Some of them need a quiet space to go work. We want the teachers to have the flexibility to be able to teach in ways that are going to support their students. We need to invest in the teachers and be sure that they are able to run their classrooms in whatever way that they think is going to be best for their kids. And we want to be sure that the environments that we have are conducive to learning for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Linda Welburn.
Yes. I think it's awesome that we passed the 300 million bond, and willingly and happily, and those projects are moving forward. We passed the 1.7 billion, and that's $2 billion that needs to be efficiently managed and efficiently cost effective, because we got a huge need in the district. And my problem, because I know my opponent's going to hit me on not approving it, is because I saw what was happening with the 300 million. That has exploded to, with the chief financial officer told me was most likely going to be 470 million. You can't keep your promises to the voter if you are not spending the money efficiently and effectively. I want to see all schools, the deferred maintenance caught up, because that's what we promised parents. And whatever money we have left, we can build wonderful CTE buildings. But we made a promise to the voters, and that's the reason the parents voted for the 1.7, is that we were going to provide touch every building and deal with the deferred maintenance. So, you know, if we're not effectively, you know, that 170 million over has to come off the 1.7, which puts us behind already our promises. So we've got to have good project management. You cannot put 170 million off on inflation. It is project management, and it is also change of scope and the elements in the buildings. Thank you.
Now, Dion Clark.
Thanks, Jaden. So simply put, listen, I was a community advocate for passing the school bond for the improvement of our schools and the building of our schools. And it's just like we just talked about. A student cannot learn effectively if they're not placed in the right environment. And so those bond dollars are strictly being placed to make sure we provide the best education opportunities and technology for our students. Of course, we understand that inflation is in everything. Inflation is in a quarter pounder or a Big Mac or something that somebody may be hungry right now for lunch. Inflation is in all of those things. And so it's never going to stop. So that doesn't mean that we vote no and doesn't pass bond dollars because of inflation. That's the thing that comes with living. Prices go up, we deal with it, but we deal with what we need to deal with holistically and do what is effective the best we can with the dollars that we have. And so I'm an advocate for it, and I think that we have to make sure that we improve our schools, our technology, and those things that will make sure our students are effective and that their educational environment is conducive to them growing and developing. And that's where I think we need to put our focus on, even with the bond dollars, and making sure that schools like Page and schools like those that are in need get what they need to make sure the students have exactly everything they need to grow and win.
Thank you. Now, Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon again. The environments that we intend to build for our students is vitally important. The bond money has passed. We need to spend it effectively. We have many people on the panel who are community organizers, but I believe I bring a unique skill set as a trained project management professional and a demonstrated master logistician from the International Society of Logistics. I look at cost, scope, and schedule for a living. This is what we do to make sure that our projects are done on time. The budgets that we've been passing for Guilford County Schools for the last several years usually have about 1.2% allocated toward maintenance. In my world, we usually spend a little bit more. So my concern is that we're going to spend this bond money, we need to do it, but we also need to make sure that these buildings are maintained properly. And between the two of them, we will have that environment that we're seeking to be the best for our children, for our teachers, for the staff, and make sure that we're spending our funds wisely. So these are skill sets that I believe I can bring to the board, because ultimately we all want the best environment for all of our staff and all of our students.
Thank you. Now, Kim Irby.
I know about Paige. Your principal actually hired me to work in GCS. So I have a very good working relationship with your principal. And, you know, since I've been here the last 12 years, Guilford County Schools has presented a budget to the county commissioners, which included all of those things with maintenance, because that's their level of responsibility to the school system. And we advocated at the county commissioners to fully fund that budget, right? And oftentimes that budget was not fully funded, unfortunately. So here we are at this, you know, opportunity with the bond to touch every school, to bring our schools into the 21st century so that you will teach for us. That's why we're doing it, right? So I care about your experience in the classroom, that you're going to be able to offer a global experience to your students, that you will have the flexibility to teach, that you can choose the books and all the resources that you need, that you won't be a teacher that will be spending money out of your pocket if we fully fund education from the state level and from the local level. That's the kind of environment I want you to come into when you come work for Guilford County.
Thank you so much. Now, Dina Hayes.
Thank you. I think, Jade, part of your question, I want to respond to this. I think we have to form stronger, more collaborative and better aligned teacher education and preparation programs. I said last night that I don't know of any teacher that was advised to go into education, into teaching to make a fortune, even though I do think that people should be able to live very well on an educator's salary, and that people want to make a difference in the lives of children. And if they're not prepared and equipped for the realities in our classrooms, they can't be effective. And they need to know that what they're doing matters. And where people work has an impact on how they instruct, how they perform, and how they learn. I've been on the school board through 2 other school bonds. And when we sort of pick and choose and just work on certain schools, it costs us more in the long run. This is the first time that we have had a master facilities plan that allows us to step back and look at over 126 schools and what each of them needs, which in the long run is going to be more efficient. When school started this year, many of us received emails from teachers and from parents because their kids are sitting in rooms that are hot or cold, that are stuffy, where things were inoperable. And our job is to figure out how to correct those things. Anybody that's on a building fund for a community organization or a faith institution knows that what we projected a year ago or 2 years ago isn't the same anymore. And so we are working very closely with the Board of County Commissioners in ways we've never had to improve our facilities.
Thank you. And finally, our at-large candidates, Dimitri Carter. I believe you're still muted.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about that again. I want to start off with a question, and the question is this. Why would a board, a superintendent, a principal allow students to attend a school that doesn't have any heat in the middle of winter? Why would that say what those people allow a student to sit in a classroom where there's no air conditioning and they've been told that there's no air conditioning? So the board has finally got a facilities master plan. Those kinds of master plans should have been required years ago, and they should have been working off that plan every year so that there's no surprise as to what needs to be fixed and when and in what order. So I'm really kind of curious about that. It's my understanding that some lottery funds that are supposed to be used for improvements to schools have been used by the county to pay down the debt. Now, this is just anecdotal. I don't have any real evidence of that. But if that is in fact what's happening, and we have said our school facilities in many schools are just uninhabitable, what is going on? Do we have our priorities mixed up? We need academic excellence. We simply do. I think my time is up. It is up. Sorry, done.
Thank you. Now, Alan Sheraus.
Thank you, Jaden. Well, let me start by communicating my gratitude and confidence in our GCS leadership, in our superintendent, and those who have worked to get us to this point, and who will lead us forward efficiently executing the master plan. And the gap, what has been missing, has been the funding. And now we have the opportunity to fund and work towards the completion of essential improvements to our facilities, because we care about our students' learning environments. Yes, that every student is entitled to a space that is safe, that has the wideness for them to walk into with the fullness of who they are and can imagine they can be, the fullness of their creativity and identity. But I think we sometimes forget that a student's learning environment is also a teacher's working environment. And it is just as important that we execute this plan as a way of supporting our teachers, improving teacher retention, improving the quality of life and work for those who serve so ably. And this is a great source of community pride. Jaden, I think you saying that I know I won't experience this as a student, but I hope to as a teacher, is such a healthy and generous position. It reminds me of one advocate who said, my children may not experience this, but my grandchildren will. Our community believes in this. They have shown us that, and we can build on that in executing this master plan moving forward.
Thank you. And I now have your final question. I'm going to talk about Paige again. You all may have seen that the Board of Education has agreed to accept a $1 million donation from an anonymous donor to replace and upgrade Paige's athletic field with artificial turf. Kids at our school are actually talking about this, and there has been some difference of opinion and debate about it. Some kids are for it. I mean, who doesn't want a great field? But others want the money to spend on other things, but none of this is our choice. So as a Board of Education member, how will you help the community better understand the full range of school needs? And most importantly, how will you inspire the community to help meet all of these needs? Chrissy Pratt, can you start us off?
Sure, that's an interesting conundrum to be in, because you're receiving a donation that's earmarked for a particular improvement to the school, but you have people with differences of opinion on that. And so I think what that really boils down to is communication with the school community and informing everyone exactly what's happening. What was the rationale for this? Why did this person want to make this donation in particular to the fields? I don't know a lot about this particular thing, but I would imagine it's somebody who may have been at that school, may have been an athlete at that school, and wants to be able to support the athletic programs there. And so, just communicating that. And I think that is, in general, something that the Board of Education needs to be doing across Guilford County schools. And we do it really, really well in some cases and not as well in others. But making sure that everybody understands where things are coming from. There's a lot of misinformation about things that happen in Guilford County. And so presenting facts to people so that they know exactly what's happening and why decisions are being made, I think is absolutely critical for board members. And I think in your particular instance at Paige, just talking about what the benefits of this are going to be for the students who are there and talking about other funding for other projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Amanda Cook.
Yeah, I agree that this is a really good question. It's hard to turn down a gift. I think that when any community member wants to contribute, we can't appreciate their willingness. You hope that somebody that has $1 million to give has some friends that have some other millions of dollars to give. I think that that's one thing that a lot of people are feeling, is that when we hear about the economic boom and all of the great things that are coming to our area, that our schools haven't felt that impact. It has not trickled down yet to us. And I think that, athletics and the arts have a great capacity for helping children who may not have another connection to show up for school. And perhaps that community member felt that the athletics offered it that in their time provided some opportunity that helped them later in life. And that's why they wanted to motivate and encourage the students in that way. And I think that the students speaking up and having that conversation is what democracy is all about, is having that openness and having the ability to share your opinion and to listen to people who feel differently, and to understand how budgets and economics work is part of the learning process. And I'm glad you're a part of it.
Thank you. Now, Dion Clark.
I think that, again, it's kind of a catch-22 when a person designates their funds for a specific issue, because it's their money. And so they're saying, hey, I want to designate these funds to this particular school for this particular reason. I think that that's a catch-22 because they designated. However, though, if elected and there is, an issue, I think that we have to navigate to see how can these funds be used best. I think it comes down from administration to students to parents, because again, we have to fix what's best for the schools, and then I would advocate to say, hey, if there's a greater need than what these funds were for, should we go back to the donor and say, would you mind, if we designated these funds for something else that would make more of an impact, that's an immediate need, and not saying that the field or the turf is not an immediate need, but whatever's needed, I think that we just have to advocate for what the major need is that would make the biggest impact for the needs of the schools and the students at that time that the money was received for.
Thank you. Now, Linda Welburn.
I'm unmuted. There you go. It is challenging. You know, part of that is a lot of people are loyal to their alma maters. They want to boost them up. You see that with colleges. You see that with all sorts of schools. And when you get to your high schools, you see that support for the school you graduated from. So it is difficult. You know, you can say, I want to go back to the donor and say, you know, can we use this money for something else? Clearly, the donor probably was a football player, probably has a passion for that page. That's wonderful. But if it's between the donation, getting the donation and having a football field, and the donor doesn't want to invest money somewhere else, then it's a matter of I would look at it, if that football field is done by one donor, that leaves Guilford County free to have to do that field and leaves money, hopefully, for another field that does not have a donor. That would be what I would say, because that's one less field we have to address. And hopefully that leaves some funding open for another field that does not have that type of donation. So it is a difficult situation, but there is loyalty to schools. And generally that's where people want to donate and put their time and volunteer and all that, because they have fond memories. And whether it be Andrews, whether it be Page, whether it be Grimsley, there's a lot of situations there.
Thank you. Now, Kim Irby.
Yeah, those are choices, you know, and I voted, of course, for you all to receive the gift, but I immediately thought about the inequity of other schools and their needs also, whether it was around athletics or, again, the arts or any of the things that, you know, our students have a need for. And I think it boils down to really understanding how schools are funded in North Carolina and why these things happen. And I'm grateful, you know, that the community loves, you know, someone in your community loves Page. And we want more people to love on our schools. That's what, you know, if that's what they want to do. And I will continue accepting gifts from the community as a board member, but at the same time, looking for resources, right? We're always looking for grants and other resources to provide, again, that global experience, to provide, you know, opportunities for even our kids to, you know, go on trips and things like that, right? That maybe some other schools, you know, have those opportunities afforded to those students. So again, we will continue accepting gifts. At the same time, we will continue to advocate that our schools are fully funded in North Carolina.
Thank you. Now, Tim Andrew.
Hello. It's a free will decision for someone to give their hard-earned money to schools, and absolutely, we should accept it thankfully with gratitude. However, if we can inspire other members of the community to make similar gifts for other needs, that would be a great thing also. I'm looking at the great job that High Point Central has been doing recently about sort of letting the community know what their needs are and seeing some incredible people step up to the plate to help that community build on those schools. These are kind of things, again, partnerships with the community, communicating what the needs really are, and then looking for those generous folks who are willing to step up to do so. Dr. Blosser is involved in that in High Point, and I'm very thankful that he and his community are doing so. These are kind of things that we can continue to do for all of our schools, especially the ones that have more needs or maybe not as rich areas as Page. But again, we're very thankful for the gifts, and we can continue to work with the community to find others who are willing to be that generous and help in other applications.
Thank you. Now, Dina Hayes.
Yeah, if you watched a board meeting, this was discussed quite extensively. And it goes back to my earlier statement that inequities are systemic, and this is just one manifestation of how it shows up. I remember when my kids were in school and I was supporting an elementary school in my district with fundraising efforts for a school field trip. And a school in another district had huge donations from their networks, from the business community, from the parents and their resources. And their PTA had tens of thousands of dollars. And they didn't have to rely on cereal box tops, to raise money. There's a nonprofit organization, there's probably many of them, but one that I know about and work with is called Beyond Sports, and they're dealing with this issue. They're raising funds to provide equipment, uniforms, and even coaching, because people volunteer to coach sports that they've never coached or played. And so again, I supported accepting the donation because I don't think it's going to fix or hamper the inequities that already exist in our system. And we need to understand this from that deeper root cause.
Thank you. Alan Sheraus.
Thank you, Jaden. Well, as an institutional leader myself, I certainly know a little bit about development. I understand the power of generosity, and I respect the choices of donors. I also know that institutions can find themselves in a position where they're so clarified in their identity that they refuse gifts. I do not think this is such a case. We all can understand the value of athletics and other extracurricular activities as pathways to formation and community and positive self-esteem for our students. But I do think these donations are an example of how to encourage broader generosity to do these sorts of extracurricular innovative things. Donations should not replace our collective responsibility that we have as a society to fully fund our schools and meet the essential needs. But we can build on this and we can seek similar gifts that enable creativity and innovation beyond our budgets and our funds. But I would say that a key question for me that this raises is who are the voices that have power and who is shaping the priorities. And I think, Jaden, that you and your fellow classmates talking about this illustrates the power that students have and reminds us also of the essential voices of teachers who ought to be central to decision-making and to a vision for our district so that they can be a part of shaping future donations and energies moving forward.
Thank you. Now, Dimitri Carter.
Based on what I've heard from the other candidates, the authority to accept the gift rests at the board's level and not at the school's level. So therefore, the gift that would have come in of $1 million for a specific purpose at a specific school would have originally gone to the board for discussion and acceptance. My assumption then is that given the terms of the gift, the board had the ability to accept it outright or to reject it or to accept it with some conditions. And I did not listen to the board meeting on that, but my assumption is that they accepted it as offered. And if that's the case, then I think that that was the right thing to do. At the same time, they could have, and I don't know that they didn't, but they could have gone back to the donor and suggested another way of making the gift to see if the donor was willing. If the donor wasn't willing, I think that was the end of the discussion. And then to encourage others to also give.
Great. You all have done a great job. Thank you so much for answering these questions, engaging with them, and keeping on time. We really appreciate it. So now we're going to turn to very brief closing statements. So we're going to give each of you 30 seconds to give us a few parting words. And we'll start with District 2. Amanda Cook, you're up.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you and to say that, hopefully it's apparent from the answers that were given today who has been active and involved and paying attention and inside of school buildings recently. I hope that we can all come to our own conclusions using the information we have today or using our websites to check in and see how people have landed in the past and the issues that they're working on today. I hope that you'll take the time to go to my website at voteamandacook.com.
Great. And Chrissy Pratt, District 2.
Thank you so much. So I'm here in this race because I want to make a difference. As a classroom teacher, I was able to make a difference. I've been able to make a difference in the past 12 years working in developing online curriculum. And I want to make a difference here in my community in the very schools that my kids have gone to. I think this is a great opportunity to bring all of my skills together and to really help make a positive impact on GCS. And I also encourage everybody watching to go out and vote November 8th. No matter who you vote for, go out and vote and have your voice be heard. Thank you.
District 4, Linda Welburn.
Yes, I am Linda Welburn, District 4 current representative. I am focused on strong education, empowering parents, supporting teachers, and financial accountability. We have 59 schools that are low performing. Every focus has to be on lifting up those schools, making sure that these children are educated and figuring out and working as a collaborative team and figuring out how we do that, because that's a big lift. And so I'd like to make sure that that's our focus and that we make that happen.
Thank you.
Great. And District 4, Dion Clark.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. Again, listen, I'm just here to work for all children. Again, I want to focus on high quality education, teacher recruiting and retaining, safety, mental health, and expanding career and technical educational programs. And the way we're going to do that is continue to focus on all the systems, all the things that need closing the educational gaps and building partnerships and community programs so we all can win. Let's make sure everybody win. We're here to work for all children. I can't wait to be your District 4 Board of Education representative. Thank you so much.
District 6, Tim Andrew.
Good afternoon, Tim Andrew. My website is timandrew4boe.com. I've served my country for 26 years as an active duty Marine Corps officer. I've served the citizens of High Point as a member of the High Point Citizens Advisory Council. I would like to serve the citizens of High Point in District 6 as a member of the Guilford County School Board of Education. I believe I have a unique skill set as in project management and logistics management that'll bring a different point of view to the board, and I would like to bring those skills to serve you, the citizens of District 6. Thank you.
In District 6, Kim Irby.
Yeah, I just want to continue working in this community. Education is important to me. Having 6 children who have attended public schools and been successful, it's 20 years of advocacy is what I bring and what I do and what I'm passionate about. I'm asking you to re-elect Kim Irby for that continuity, for someone who has voted on behalf of good budgets the last 4 years, who's been consistent. Vote for Kim Irby.
District 8, Dina Hayes.
Thank you. My decision to seek re-election is not something I decide alone. It's based on feedback and direction from my community and constituents. I don't agree with everything that is said and done with regard to education, but I believe we have to stop pitting parents against teachers and against each other and do what's in the best interest of the broader community. I don't decide to sit in this seat, the voters do. And I just want to thank them for their support and collaboration over these years. Thank you.
And finally, our at-large candidates. We'll start with Dimitri Carter.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this forum. If you want to know more about my campaign and what I'm running on, please go to www.dimitricarter.com. Every child can learn. And I don't understand why a significant number of our children are not learning. I want to be on the board to find out and turn this around. Thank you.
And finally, our at-large candidate, Alan Shuraus.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity. Among the many roles in my life, most important for me is a father of 4 GCS students, grades 1, 2, 5, and 7, and a consistent refrain in our minivan over the 9 years we have lived in Guilford County has been to point out one of their schools and they would say out, "That's our school." And you can hear the pride in their voices. And I feel that pride is being undermined by a movement that is pitting parents against teachers, that is eroding trust in public schools, that is finding danger and deficiency at every turn. And I don't want that to happen because those are our schools. And I want us to have that pride and I want to work for it. SherausSchools.com. Appreciate your support.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you so much. At Guilford Education Alliance and at the High Point Schools Partnership, we believe that great communities have great schools. And we also believe that the success of our students and schools is the responsibility of the whole community. I'm so grateful when people step up for students and educators. So thank you. I've heard some consistent themes and messages today, even though there are, of course, various opinions and approaches on how we take Guilford County schools to new heights. One thing I know for sure, though, is that we are all focused on the students. And with that in mind, I'm going to let Jaden have the last word. Jaden, thank you so much for doing this, for all that you do. Share with us what you want all of these candidates to remember as they campaign and as they continue in positions of influence that impact your future and the future of other students.
Thank you. I just want to thank you guys all for your time, attention, and responses this afternoon. As you may know, being an elected official is very important, even more so as a school board member. Board members make very important decisions that affect the lives of students and staff. As a student and moderator of this event, I ask you to remember my face when taking the role of board member. Although you may not see my face when making decisions, keep in your memory that there are students like me who are depending on your support. And I encourage you to lead with fairness, equity, and inclusiveness. There are also students like me who have a passion for seeing young people learn, grow, and become responsible citizens. If and when you are elected, strongly consider the following as policy decisions. 1, develop policies that will support teachers. Guilford County Schools should lead the state in competitive teacher salary. 2, maintain the investment made in your buildings. 3, ensure there is a consistent way to incorporate student voice when making significant decisions. And 4, ensure that your policies support a healthy work environment for all, regardless of your position. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon and your commitment in ensuring that GCS continues to be one of the best school systems in North Carolina and the nation.
I think we could all give Jaden a big round of applause.